I am actually, surprisingly, filming a book review today, mostly because I just need to get this book out of my mind. Like, I read it a couple days ago, and at this point, it's consuming my everything. I can't think, can't do anything else, just want to talk about the book, and that does not often happen, so I'm going to talk about it because I think it deserves it. The book deserves it. If at any point you're wondering what's going on with my shelves, me too. The answer is, I don't know. I don't know. They will get there one day, and we're not going to rush them. They're going to take their time, and we're just going to let them. The book I want to talk about today is called Ordinary Monsters by Jacob Miro. He is a writer out of the Pacific Northwest. He's married to another writer. Always wonder what that's like. I'm very new to the world of fantasy. If you're looking at my shelf behind me, you probably are like, it's pretty good. I mean, maybe not a lot, but there's a decent amount of fantasy books back there, but I still think of myself as pretty new to the genre. I haven't read a lot of the really classic fantasy novels. Honestly, it's intimidating. I think people who are very well versed in their fantasy series are just some of the coolest people that exist. It's intimidating. I can't even express how intimidating it is. So I'm doing this balancing act of reading the older, well-known popular fantasies, but I'm also dabbling in what's new and going on right now in fantasy and trying to see what I actually like. So that's what I'm trying to do. So when I picked up this book, I liked it because it seemed like an X-Men origin story, and I kind of got that from it. So I'm going to just really quickly, spoiler-free. So the story is set in Victorian London, and two young boys are born with these really special abilities. One boy can heal himself no matter how many times he's injured, and another boy glows blue. These two boys are being hunted for by a man made of shadows, and also an institute who wants to take them in and foster their abilities a little bit more. It has a lot of elements that you'd find in like X-Men. I would say that if you're interested in a story that does have a little bit of exposition, where you feel like you're really getting in at the very beginning of everything and you're learning about these characters and you're getting an origin story and you're getting invested in something that you really want to follow, it's a really good book for you. If you're interested in kids with magical powers, if you're interested in strange institutes, a little bit of mystery. There are a couple scenes with a little bit of horror, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you like that horror did not stick with me, because it did. It's very well written. The tone of the book is amazing. The characters that you get, you will fall in love with. If you want a go for it or don't go for it recommendation, my recommendation is wholeheartedly go for it, dive in, submerge yourself in the book, get lost in the world, but know that it's an investment. It's just shy of, I want to say 700 pages, maybe 650-ish pages. It's pretty long. Do I think every single part of it was critical? No, but I enjoyed every moment I spent with it. If I'm not having a good time, I'll just stop a book, but I enjoyed it the whole way through. I will say for me it took about 140 pages to really pick up. So if you're not enjoying it after, I would say the first 200 pages, go ahead and stop. It just may not be for you, but I really liked it. So that's all I can say without spoiling too much of the book. So if you don't want to know more, then I suggest you stop here, because I'm going to go into some of the more detailed parts of things that I did and did not like about the book, starting now. So first I want to talk about the setting of the book. Victorian London is always going to rope me in. I've never been to London. Been to Germany, been to France, never been to London. I should probably go. It is set in 1882, but it bounces around between 1874-ish. It does talk about America in certain parts, and I think that is, it's critical. They go and find Charlie, who is one of my favorite characters, probably everybody's. They go and find Charlie, and he's in 1880 Mississippi. I know how it is looked at when white authors write black characters. I personally felt like the way Miro wrote Charlie's character made sense. It fit in with the story in a way that was natural. I did see some people say that once he got to Switzerland, spoiler alert, he does get to Switzerland or Sweden, one of the two. He gets to Europe, he crosses the Atlantic. Once Charlie crosses the Atlantic, it's like all semblance of racism is just out of the window. To that, I know that that's not true, and I know that that would not happen as 1882. But I personally didn't want it in my fantasy. I just didn't want to hear about this boy being discriminated against the entire book, and I'm glad that we didn't get a lot of that. I don't want a lot of real life in my fantasy, and I think that that's okay. So just know that if that's something that you don't like, if you don't like it under any circumstances, then this may not be the book for you. But I think that he handled writing Charlie's character with tact, and that it was very well done. The way that the locations are described, it's just very, you can see it in your head, you can visualize it, you can see the gas lamps, you can see the ships. It's very descriptive without being so much that it's talking about elements that don't matter. They're walking down these cobblestone roads, or they're passing this gas lamp, or they're on these boats. They're just kind of dropped in there. Perfect amount. Just briefly to touch on the part of fantasy that I am very intimidated by. Discussing world building, still not there yet. Discussing magic systems, I still don't feel like I'm there yet. I don't feel like I've read enough to talk about them in a very educational way. But it's book one of a trilogy, and I think that there's a lot more to learn. It didn't go in depth with what each of the 5 types of talents are capable of. It really just touched on what Charlie's talent is and the talent of, the strengths. That's pretty much it. So I'm hoping we get more of that in the second book. As far as characters go, this is what really got me. I love characters. I love a layered antagonist, and I just want to talk for a second about the antagonist of the story, Jacob Marber. You start off with this image of this man who's just like relentlessly in search of power. But then you get his backstory. So it goes through all of these chapters of 1882. Then, in a very well done, almost seamless way, they drop you into 1874, and you learn the backstory of Jacob Marber. And I immediately felt conflicted for him. First, you see that he's being kind of followed by, I've been calling it a Drew. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. But he's being followed by this Drew. He's been having dreams of it. I immediately felt like bad for him. I didn't feel like it was his fault. I felt like I wouldn't know what was going on either, and he was being followed by this thing that's coming to him, and he doesn't know if he trusts it or not, and it's giving him these feelings of, you understand me when no one else does. It kind of played on his weaknesses. It knew that he was really still thinking about his brother's death, still mourning his brother's loss, the grief that he was dealing with, and it played on all of that, and it manipulated him. And so I felt like, yes, he's doing these evil things, but like, is he all bad? No, right? In my opinion, no. But then you get more into the story, and you see the evil things that he's done, and while you're disappointed, you still know what's at the root of it all. You know that he's still dealing with that grief, and I think that grief in its own is very powerful and can make you do things that are completely out of character. In my personal life, I know grief has made me feel completely out of character and completely lost for extended periods of time, so I understand how you can be a victim to your own grief, and I think that he was. And then he was a victim of the Drew, but then he went and made his own terrible decisions. So you're disappointed with him, but you don't completely hate him, right? Or is that just me? I don't know, because then he goes and he feeds 2 young, innocent people to the Drew for his own best interest. Layered antagonist. A layered antagonist, we love it. I love it. I know at the end of the really climactic scene of everyone kind of fighting at the Institute, he goes over the edge. But I just need to know if he's really gone and if there's redemption for him. I wouldn't be mad if he, wasn't gone completely. I don't know. The next character I wanted to talk about was Alice Quicke. I loved her soft spot for the boys. I love how much she instantly loved Marlowe, even though it felt like she tried to not love Marlowe. But I don't think there's anyone who cannot love... why does everybody love Marlowe? Everyone loves Marlowe. He just gets into your little heart, and you just need to take care of the boy. So Marlowe's guardians along the way all felt this way, and of course as soon as Alice becomes his guardian, she's victim to it too. She's in love with the boy, takes care of him, she brings him over to London, and then she brings Charlie in, and you can just tell how much she adores these children, and she does everything she can to keep them safe. And I think that there's something that's really sweet about that. I have a soft spot for the tough character with a soft spot for kids, and she is that. And so I think it's really sweet. I can't wait to see what goes on with her as the story continues. And then we have Marlowe, our chosen one of sorts. He is very powerful and has already gone through a lot, and that makes me worry for what will happen with his character in the future. We hear the prophecy of the Dark Talent, and we know that that's something that Henry Bergast was terrified of, him being on the other side right now at the end of book 1, and having gone through all the things he went through, just like Jacob Marber, all the trauma that he went through, the loss that he's experienced, the confusion, the loneliness at such a young age. I can see how that would make him more susceptible to falling for things. But I think everybody constantly reminding him, Brent reminding him, and Liza, his first guardian, reminding him, you always have a choice, will keep him on the right side. Maybe he'll dabble in the dark side, but I think that if he can come back to the fact that he has choice, then things will be fine. And his brotherhood with Charlie, I hope that love, that bond that they've built with Charlie and with Alice, I hope that keeps him balanced in some way. I'm excited to see where his character goes. We have Mrs. Davenshaw, who I hope we get more of. We've got Kamako, who lost her little sister Teshi. I think Kamako's character is just so... She reminds me of my nieces, and I'm obsessed with her. She has a soft spot for Marlowe because I think she sees a little bit of her little sister in Marlowe. I like that she's kind of tough. She's instantly like, I don't trust anyone, but she has her soft spots. There's a scene where she's talking to Charlie, and she says, the thing that tried to kill you, Jacob Marber, and he says, yeah, she says, I like him, and just kind of walks out. And I love that she has this connection with Jacob. She knows who he was before he turned to the dark side, and she knows that there's something of him still in there. I love that they share the same power. That's something that I want to know more about. So I loved her character. I love that she still has that feeling of there's humanity in Jacob, and she seemed like she was willing to go to bat for it. And I don't think that it's gone. Even after how things went at the Institute at the end of the book, I don't think that is completely over. So we'll see. Then we have Rib, who I'm still not sure how I feel about. I think she's so spunky and fun and interesting, but they've made mention of too many times how much this girl seems like she's been here before, and she didn't get any visions from the glyph when they were down in the underground. So I don't know about Rib. I think I know I like her character right now, but I'm interested to see what more we get from her. I think she's got her talent down packed. I don't know much else about her. I think that's by design, and I hope that we do get, a little bit more detail about her. I think she's one of the strongest characters in the story, though. As far as the talents go, she understands her talent. She knows how to use it. She has been through it. She's brave. She's bold. She's not afraid to speak her mind. That could be a good or bad thing. I'm not sure, but I do like her character. I'm feeling like there's more that we're not getting from Rib. So we'll see. I may have already talked about Charlie, but good old Charlie he is an amazing character. There's some depth to him too. He's got kind of those internal conflicts of who am I, but he's a good person. Despite all of the things that have happened to him and the things he's experienced, he's an amazing person. He loves the people around him. He knows how to show up for people. He knows what he looks like to the outside world, and he knows that not only for his talent, but because he's a black boy, he's going to experience discrimination. He's a Halen, who is someone who will live a little bit longer than everybody else. Time will slow down. He will be able to experience loss in a different way, which I hate for him because I just love him so much, and he's just so wise beyond his years. He's a great character. I want to see him step into his own a little bit more. I feel like a lot of this book was him feeling his way through things and just kind of rolling with the punches, but I want to see him as more of a leader making choices, and it seems like that's what's happening. At the end of the book, he straight up said, I'm going to find Marlowe. That's my boy, that's my brother, you're not going to stop me, and I loved that, and so I'm hoping that book 2 kicks off with his leadership and him getting them to the other side. He knows he can go in with the ring. He's been there before. Definitely one of our most powerful characters. And of course I have to mention Oskar and his flesh giant. I hope he grows another flesh giant. I don't really know. I mean, I know he will. probably the weirdest sentence I've ever said, but I really do love Oskar. I think he's a brilliant addition. So 2 things that I really wanted to talk about. I loved the formatting of the story and kind of the depth that we get in book 1. First, it starts off with Marlowe, who's introduced as a glowing blue baby boy, and we don't know much. And then we get him growing up and him experiencing his first caregiver leave, and then we are introduced to Charlie and the fact that there are likely other talents and people are looking for the talents, and then we go back and we find Marlowe, and then we find out about, what's going on with Mrs. Harrogate, and it's just, it feels like the beginning of a really, really good movie where you're just like, what are all these characters? What is going on? And I feel like it really kicks off at the train scene when they're all on their way to the Institute, and we really get to see all of these characters in one place for the first time. And when you do, you kind of understand the dynamics. You understand who's powerful and who knows who, and these people seem to know each other already, and you see Alice go really hard for Marlowe and Charlie for the first time, and Miss Harrogate be really, really tough because she knows what she has to do, and then, we lose Colton, who I think is a great character, and then we see Jacob Marber, and a lot of his actions in those scenes, they were so strange. It just seemed like he was still at odds with himself, and then we immediately go into the backstory of Jacob Marber, like, who is this guy? Why is he doing what he does? And then you're like, okay, well, now I've got a soft spot for him. We're introduced to Kamako, we're introduced to Rib, and then we get back to present day, and they're at the Institute, and we get to see them all come together in present day. And so now we're like, all right, we've got a set cast of our obviously protagonists, a little bit of backstory, knowing what's on the other side and who the Drew is or what the Drew is. And then we see present day Institute, and this elusive character of Henry Bergast, we finally meet him, and immediately you're like, oh, no, like I thought we were going to get like a Professor Xavier or a Dumbledore, but we do not. So we're learning about this guy, and then everything just continues to pop off after that. You learn about the crimes of Jacob Marber, and it goes back one more time just to show you, now here's what happened after he disappears off the ship, and you're wondering, like, okay, so he is all bad, maybe he's not all bad. You find out, no, he's not all bad, at least at that time he wasn't yet, and it's just, oh my god, it's just so good. It's just, I loved the flow of the story, and I mean, obviously I need to read a lot more fantasy. This may be very common, but I did find it very well done. I was wrapped in. After the train, I was like, I can't stop. I need to know everything that happens to all these characters. So that's one thing that I really, really enjoyed. The second thing I really loved were the parallels between our new generation of talents and our old generation of talents. You have desk worker Jacob Marber, and then desk worker Kamako. But then you have our Halen and Charlie, and our Halen and Dr. Bergast. And I think something about those well-placed parallels kept me really interested. I also really liked that they didn't give me everything right away. We still don't know Charlie's true story because you just keep hearing, like, that's not how it works. Talents aren't bred from other talents, but, like, are they not? How did he get the ring? Why didn't Bergast take the ring from him? Is Bergast all bad, or is he really just so dead set on killing this Drew that he wants evil, like he wants all the power? But then you think about it and it's like, maybe that's not the case. Maybe he is all bad because he was going to drain little Marlowe for all he had. And then, how did Marlowe come to be? Is Jacob Marber his father? Is that completely far-fetched to believe? Because he just says that the Drew disappeared one day and then she came back and she had had a baby. Who did she get pregnant by? Is she... Who's the daddy? We don't know yet. And so I'm just... I don't know. Did the Drew kill the 2 parents on the other side? No. Because we clarified that Marlowe is the child of the Drew. So I don't know. I also really like that the Drew is a woman. Again, I'm not super well versed in my fantasy. I don't know how common that is, but like, I like that she's a woman, and I kind of liked it. I don't know. I enjoyed this book. I don't like to rate books on a star system. The easiest way for me to recommend something is to say yes or no. I had a good time with it. I did. I had a great time with this book. I'm not a very critical reader. I think I said that already. If you are a more critical reader, you probably will find 100 things wrong with this book, and if you do, don't tell me, because I don't want to know. I had fun, and I don't want my fun to be taken away. One last thing I'll add. The horror scenes in this book are horror for me. They stuck with me. I don't even think they were that bad, but something about when the Drew first kind of comes at Jacob and screams in the room, Oh my god, nightmares. Literal nightmares about it. And then every Lich description. I never want to read about a Lich again. Colton being one, Walter Laster being one. I don't want to hear about them ever again. So if you're interested, I think you should give it a chance. It's a really, 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 really fun story. Very X-Men origin with like elements of characters from Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and maybe other things. I don't know. Give it a shot if you want to. No pressure. I will be following the entire trilogy. I can't wait till the next one comes out. I actually haven't checked to see when that is, but if I did look it up, I'll put it on the screen here so that you can see what it's called, when it's dropping, if we've heard anything from the author. And that's it. That's all I've got. So thanks. Thanks for watching, and okay, bye.